So, and I think we're live. I'll just double check. I know I'm not on the screen right now for the second, so you can just hear my dulcet tones, but I'll just check on that side too. Yes, we are live. So hello all and welcome to Lightcode Discussions with me, Sifu Boggy, and the awesome, the amazing, the absolutely fantastic Denise Tadwick. Hello, Denise. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. I'm still loving the coast. I'm still loving my days off being down here, and it's bank holiday here in the UK next week. So that actually means I get 5 days off next week. So which is awesome. So so I work the weekend. I do my muggle day job at the weekend, and then I've got 5 days off next week, which I'm sure I'll find something to do. So yes, so how have the energies been with you this past couple of weeks?
For me, so often the way that I look at the energies is how my body is. So there's been a fair bit of solar plexus stuff. And to me, the solar plexus is a lot to do with power, inner power, self-worth, self-confidence, all those things. But specifically, I was working on something that is, let me just sit up a little bit more and then I can show you. So there's a point along the body. So there's the bottom of my ribs, there's my diaphragm, and there's a point just there, which can be linked to breathing, even though it's in the solar plexus. And I was talking to a couple of people about this, and I don't know if you'll have any wisdom on this as well. But one of my friends, Melinda, in Australia, was saying that she sees in that area what she calls a life seed. And when she does sessions on people and she tunes into this area, she finds that it's not only on or off, but there's like a dimmer switch. And it seems to be an area of the body that when it's fully active, people seem a lot more present in their life and have more of an energy to be here. So wanting to be here for life. And it seems like when I was tuning into this, and I haven't got into it fully, and I think someone else called it a diaphragm lock as well. So I was tuning into this area a little bit, because it also seems linked, as I say, to breathing and to life, because breathing is your lungs and breathing in the air is like the life force. So the ability to breathe in life force seems to actually, to me, be linked to that point. So that's one of the things that I've been working on, and I'll ask you in a sec how, if you've got any wisdom on that as well. And other than that, I've been spending a lot of time outdoors. So that to me has been linked to base chakra stuff, which also is very linked to life and wanting to be here as well on the planet. So other than that, the energies are strong, but maybe not quite as strong as they were, like with the Lion's Gate. Yeah, it seems like the energies seem to go a little bit like this, and it feels like we're having maybe a slight lull, but there's something just around the corner, as there always is, that will take us back up to a bit of a peak again.
Just because I was actually sharing out the link. So show me on the hand where you were referring to.
It's there.
Oh,
so you've got the bottom of the ribs there, like the diaphragm. It actually seems like it's on the diaphragm.
All right, cool. Yes, so the whole point of so within Taoism and Qigong, breathing is sort of like the key to everything. You know, like the way you breathe affects the way you think and the way you feel. And there are different styles of breathing. And one of the most important ones that most people think is basic, and we move on from that. We don't worry about that one. Is belly breathing and the waterways. So belly breathing is like if you just gently put your hands on your belly and the belly button. As you breathe in, you let the belly expand, and as you breathe out, you gently pull the belly in. And so that's the actual main technique. And then the style is called the waterway, which is as you breathe in until you can't breathe in anymore, and then straight away breathe out, not quickly, but breathe in until you're as full as you can be, then you breathe out, and you breathe out until you're as empty as you can be, and then you breathe back in again. And again, so as you breathe in, you let the belly expand, and when you can't breathe in anymore, you breathe out and you let the belly pull in, and you can actually pull the belly in a little bit, and it helps strengthen up the muscles. And you pull the belly in and helps release the air until you can't breathe out anymore, and you breathe back in, and that creates a wave. It does create like this up and down motion within your belly, and is fully using the diaphragm. And when we fully use the diaphragm, we fully use the lungs. And what it does on the physical side, it strengthens your diaphragm. It opens up the capillaries in the lungs to the fullest. Does all this stuff physically, and this is not a health qigong, so I won't go into it too much. But it increases the energy. It helps release the grief. It helps to let go, because as you pull the belly in, when you're pulling the belly in, you're squeezing the diaphragm, and it's squeezing the capillaries, the lung, and it lets out the grief. It lets out, because we tend to, our solar plexus, which is in between our belly button and our chest, is one of the diffuse plexuses of nerves. And the solar plexus is said to be, in some systems, it's the core. It's where they say the sun of our bodies is. The solar plexus is the solar point of our bodies. But we store all our emotions there, especially our negative ones. So by doing belly breathing and expanding and contracting that belly every day, like all the time, you help massage your belly. You help massage out that grief, you massage that area, that plexus of emotions, and you help release what you no longer need. So that breathing technique does help that. And that for me, everything it has a flowing nature. Everything is waves. The energy very much, where I've said this many times before, since 2000, especially 2010, but around about 2008, our solar system entered a cosmic dust cloud, a cosmic cloud. NASA reported it, but it's said to be, according to the ancient knowledge, this is the dust cloud that creates the golden age that we go through every 26-ish thousand years. That's part of the precession of the equinox. It's like like if you think of a record, people who know record players, or a clock, it's a portion of the clock that's always has that energy, that the energy of light, that we go through it every 26,000 years or so. We go through it, and this dust cloud is said to be they're saying it's 2,000 light years long. So we're in it all of this life, and maybe a few others to come. But it will be ripples of waves of energy. It will constantly be this up and this down. But if you look at how many people have woken up in the last 20 years alone, since 2000. How many people are starting to everything in life, not starting to look through the lies or think, oh, hold on, that doesn't make sense. More and more people are in extremes or in pure panic or rage, but we're all slowly shifting. We're all slowly waking up, because the energy that's coming forward is literally shifting us, whether we like it or not. Things will change. Well, it's like sort of like being nudged along. You're sort of like getting pushed into a swimming pool, but in a very slow, impossible to avoid way, that you're slowly being pushed onto that edge, into that swimming pool to wake up, or to be bathed in that energy. And so I feel that there is a lull in one way and an increase in that other, because I think there's two. For me, there's there's more than two waves, but you've got sort of like, you think of like a drawing of a wave, and then you have another one on top, and one low is the other up or close. So like the two waves are going in opposite directions. And when it lulls in one thing, it increases in something else. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of get used to, if we have the levels of energy that we have now, if you had them 5 or 10 years ago, we'd be saying, wow, oh my goodness. So even when there's a lull, it's not really a lull. It's still really strong energies coming through. And interesting what you were saying before about the solar plexus and emotions, because I can't remember if I discussed this with you last time I was on. I discussed it with somebody recently, but I was in the bottom of the garden and it felt like I could feel a lot of energy coming through, and it felt like I was starting to be breathed, if that makes sense. So the universe was breathing me. Like sometimes in a session, you might suddenly, when you're very deep under, suddenly go, and it's like, you're on a ventilator. It's like you're being breathed. And I was going through that, but it was like really pulling my belly in. Like that, and I think that's similar to some breathing techniques that you can do, and it really felt like it was getting in deep to a point that maybe I can't always get to, and it reminded me, like it was quite funny. I was going with it because it felt right to do, but it was quite funny, and it reminded me of when a cat has a fur ball. And they really pull in their belly. And it just reminded me of that. And it didn't feel like I was gonna throw up. But it made me question as well what the cats are doing. Sometimes they do have a fur ball, but I wonder if they're just doing something with the energy as well when they do that.
Oh, I always, in Taoist philosophy, we tend to use lots of examples or metaphors, and cats and dogs especially. I've always said, you sit them staring into space. They're meditating. They wake up in the morning. They stretch. They're doing yoga. Whether they're 6 months old or they're 15 years old, all cats and dogs have moments of we call them, their mad half hours, or and that's their qigong. They're doing a technique that suddenly boosts up their energy. And the whole point in the Taoism was all about studying nature, and same with like the Shaolin, the Buddhists. So the Shaolin monks were Buddhists, and they were taught by the yogis from India. When the yogis from India came to China, to the Shaolin temples, they told them to go out into nature and observe nature. That is the universe talking to you, giving you techniques. So they watched the animals, they watched everything, and that's where a lot of the ancient meditation techniques come from nature themselves, because they're purging, they're activating the energy. And the whole thing of like, that the whole furball, it's actually they're breathing in a way that they're pulling in their diaphragm to literally clear out everything, and it's sometimes a little bit like it's sometimes a little bit like like you choke on nothing. You ever done that where you started to choke and it's like, but there's nothing there. Well, why am I choking? But something triggered it, and then it's and it's a way of like clearing stuff out. I've got this really weird funny thing I do. My eyes are light sensitive, and I can literally like go in and out of a car and a beam of light can hit my eyes and I'll start sneezing. And people say, oh, you've got hay fever or you've got a cold. And it's like, no, it's light. What do you mean it's light? It's like, look, I'm 51 years old. I freaking know my body. I've studied my own body for the last 51 years. But yeah, there is a thing, and it's got a name. I can't remember its name, but your eyes can be light sensitive, and if the light hits a portion of the iris, it can actually trigger the sinuses to do a sneeze. And you actually sneeze in response to this. Actually, it's a trigger response, and I think it's this way of our bodies, do this to sort of adjust to energy or to recalibrate in certain ways, and that whole thing of like be in meditation and whatnot, and you suddenly double breathe. Yeah, it's your body recalibrating. It's readjusting, to the energies. And I just wanted to go back to like something you said. There is this really profound thing that we human beings, beings in general, are very adjusting. We adapt and we don't realize it. But the amount of energy coming through now, even on the low point, is a lot more than it was 20 years ago. And I know that. One of the reasons I know that is that there's a thing with mountains. Mountains are natural pyramids. Mountains are nature's way of focusing energy. The pyramids were actually power cells. They draw power in, and if you're in or around that pyramid, your abilities would increase because that's what they do. It raises the bar. And when you go up mountains, there's certain mountains in particular, the Wudang Mountains, the 5 mountains in China, they're all of these, all of them, there's these loads of ley lines that go through, dragon lines in China, that go through the Wudang Mountains. So there's a lot of energy there. So a little bit like Stonehenge and some. And like Stonehenge or certain places, in Aylesbury and whatnot, there's certain places with the ley lines. When you go near that energy, it's like if you were as a radio and you picked up a signal, but the signal was really weak, but then you boost the radio's energy, the signal becomes stronger. And that's what happens when you go to certain ley lines like Stonehenge or mountains. The energy in those places increases your energy. So if you're a little bit psychic, you become more psychic. If you're, if you sort of have a vague recollection of a past life, and you go to a mountain and meditate, it will become clearer because it boosts the frequencies. And what's happening right now is sort of, in a way, my Sifu would say that our solar system's going up a mountain. This storm is increasing the energy. So wherever you are in the world, where that energy used to be, it's now 3 notches up. So it doesn't matter, as it goes forwards, it will be like in the old days of everywhere will be like halfway up Wudang Mountain in China, because the energy will increase that much. That's where the stories or the legends of people will suddenly become all telepathic and we'll be able to do this and we'll do that and the other. That's because there'll be so much energy about that your bodies will just turn online. Now, you won't be able to stop it because the energy will literally be surging through you. But yeah, so you know, the whole ascension symptoms. Ascension symptoms is you getting used to this increase in energy. Is that as the energy builds up, you know, certain things, you know, it's like blowing a fuse, sort of, or you know, you suddenly get an increase in energy, and you know, something will happen. In qigong, you know, we call it cha. Is that, you know, is that you're doing exercises and they make you burp or parp or click or cry or sigh, then we call that the release of cha. That's letting go of what you no longer need. And that's what these ascension symptoms are now. It's cha coming out. It's people's abilities increasing, the energy increasing. And people are reacting to that new influx of energy.
And sometimes it can be when there's resistance as well. So when they're kind of, you know, if you're still a bit contracted and you're not, because I had a very strong awareness of this. I mean, it's really obvious that when something's contracted, then whatever's in there, it obviously can't get out. So when people are resisting it and they're a little bit contracted, that can make those symptoms stronger sometimes. There was a couple of points to your sneeze mentions. So my body does two strange things with sneezes. I don't think I've noticed it with the light, but I've heard other people say that. And I first noticed this when I was in Australia, and there was a day when suddenly I felt a bit nauseous, and I was like, oh, am I about to throw up? And then I just sneezed, and it just transmuted it. So the sneeze, you know, it just felt like there was, you know, an exchange of energy, like you say. So burping, parping, sneezing, all of the above. And the other time that my body sneezes is if I've got something stuck in my throat, which actually happens quite often. And, you know, the cough is the natural reflex, but my body sneezes. I might cough first, but then it sneezes, which I don't think is a traditional way of getting things that are stuck in your throat out. But that's what my body does, and I'm very grateful for that.
Mm. There's another, I think, the feeling to bring up another thing as well is that, so, I mean, I've always learned so in Taoist and Shaolin arts, they always say everything you learn enhances everything else you do. So, you know, there's actually a great importance about, you know, learning from everything you do will enhance everything else you do. There's messages and everything. There's, you know, there's learning and everything, to the point where it's interesting where when I was younger, I don't hear it so much now, but when I was younger in my 20s, and people would hear what I do and say, oh, you're a jack of all trades. And they say, yeah, but do you know what the full saying of that, the full quote of that is? Well, it's jack of all trades. No, it's not. The full quote is it's better to be a jack of all trades than a master of none, because a jack of all trades is a master of one. And so what he's saying is that by actually knowing many skills, you actually, you ultimately work out everything. You know, it's being a jack of all trades is ultimately the better way than just being skilled in one thing is good, but you know, what about other situations and other things? When you understand a little bit of everything, you can adapt to any situation, which is what the Taoists were all about, and the samurai and everything else. So a little bit of a boggy tangent, but what I wanted to get to was, so from one of the things I learned a lot from is ice skating, and falling over, but like ice skating and falling over. And it's this, you know, like within the philosophies of that, is that when you fall over, if you fall over, or if you're on the ice and you're nervous or scared of being on the ice, your whole body tenses up, which actually makes it harder to skate, and your skating becomes more rigid and more awkward because you're scared of falling over. And like I mentioned ice skating, but being on tightrope, it's the same thing. If you're actually scared of being on the tightrope, you become rigid and become stiff, and you're actually more chance of falling off the tightrope because you're so scared, which is one of the reasons of there's a style of qigong called drunken qigong, which doesn't actually need alcohol, but the whole point of drunken qigong is you imitate being drunk. And when you're drunk, you tend to be far more relaxed and not really care so much. And then when you fall over, you actually, it actually hurts less, if at all, because when you're relaxed and you drop, it actually hurts less, which is why in things like in wrestling and judo and China, which is sort of like Chinese wrestling, they teach you how to fall. They teach you, and also how to be hit. In martial arts, you're taught how to be hit, as in when somebody's going to hit you, you relax, you breathe out and you relax. And if you soften up and relax, it doesn't hurt so much. Why am I bringing this all up? Well, it's because if right now the energy is bombarding us and everything coming through, the more we tense, the more rougher it's going to be for us. The more we hold on to anxiety and stress and fear and anger and frustration, and the more that we don't let that go, the tougher the journey's going to be. Because as these energies bombard us, we're going to be physically and metaphysically thrown here, there, and everywhere. And when in an accident or car accident or on skating, or when you fall over, if you're tense, it actually shakes the body more and actually does more damage. When you relax, the energy goes through you. So it's the same being hit. When somebody hits you, if you tense up, you're actually more likely to rip tendons and bruise and get more hurt. By relaxing and going with it, it actually the force goes through you and doesn't get absorbed as much. So it actually ends up hurting less. And so this, with everything that's happening right now, is that whatever happens, the goal, a good goal, would be to try to relax as much as possible. Breathe, parp, burp, do whatever you need to do to let the char out, and keep your breathing and your movements relaxed and fluid, and that will make things easier. I'm not saying it will. There won't be issues, but it will definitely make things easier, because when you hold, if we all stay tensed and restricted and trying to control the situation, it will end up hurting more. It will end up being more of a rough ride, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And the breath is so key in that as well, because when we're tense, we shallow breathe so often, or we kind of stop breathing pretty much. And it's you'd think we'd know how to breathe, but we don't really. It seems so, so, because it's an automatic response in our body. But conscious breathing is so important, and especially when we're stressed. And I was saying this a little bit earlier this evening, that when we're in that place of fear, if we remember to breathe, and I've done this so many times, when you feel a bit of fear coming into your body, and you feel, or something, some news or whatever comes in, and you feel that you're having a fear response. And when you breathe, and I love the 4-4 breathing, where you breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, out for 4, and then 4. So it puts your mind into another, it distracts your mind as well. So it works on that level. But even if you're not doing that, even if you just consciously breathe, whether or not you're breathing out the fears consciously, I do that sometimes, intending on my out breath to release what's in there. But even when you don't, even if you just breathe deeply and focus on your breathing, the fears can be gone in less than a minute. You do a couple of those square breaths, and it's gone. And you're like, I can't even remember what it was that caused this now.
Yeah, and it's really important. I mean, I've always been, you know, the whole name of my nickname, Borgy. Borgy is the balance between the chaos and calmness, but it means that, you know, I'm both analytical and spiritual. You know, is that I use both science. I use science to prove spiritual understanding. Our bodies, you know, the way we were born, you know, the heart came first, then the lungs, and we were drawing in nutrients and drawing in the oxygen for our bodies when we're a fetus. Sorry, I'm talking about when we were born, as in when we became a fetus. It all came through the navel. It all came through, you know, the navel slash the lower dantian, and you know, everything comes from there. So when we learn, because I've had over the years, I've had quite a few nurses and doctors, or doctors especially, do qigong, and you say, and they would say, I'd often hear them say, you know, oh, you keep talking about belly breathing, but we don't breathe from the belly. I say, no, but you do, because you breathe from the diaphragm, because by moving the belly, it actually, when we breathe from the belly, and it's like and pull that belly in, and let the belly expand, and then pull it back in, you're actually working the diaphragm, because the bottom of the diaphragm is in the stomach area. And so when you're actually moving, you know, the belly, you're working on the diaphragm, which works on the lungs. But also, again, like I said about the solar plexus, is that emotionally, all our emotions are stored and created within our organs, especially within Eastern philosophy. So each organ holds a different sort of emotion. So as a kid, I suffered greatly from IBS. I had IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, and I would get terrible stomach ache, and be stuck on the loo for hours when I was, you know, got stressed and worried. And one of the things my CFA said, which one came first? You know, the problems, or the issue, and they're sort of interconnected. But when you know, like learning from that, is that when you're living in those worries and in those emotions, they will physically affect you. And epigenetics says this. You know, you will end up with physical ailments and in your body through your emotions, and they came from your thoughts. So there's a thing called the qi, the jing, and the shen, which is physical vitality, emotional vitality, and spiritual vitality. But the reverse, or illness, tends to come from the thoughts, which is shen, then it affects the emotions, which is jing, and then it affects the physical body, which is affected by qi. So you know, they start off in our thoughts, and our thoughts get feelings, or we give them feelings, and those feelings then affect our physical organs and our physical body. Everything is affected by breath. And breath is also technically shen. Breath is, well, it's beyond that, but breath is sort of the air, the mist is the shen. So everything's affected by breath. So if you're breathing fast and erratic and shallow, your thoughts will be fast, erratic, and shallow. Your actions may be fast, erratic, and shallow. But if you breathe slowly and smoothly, effortlessly, and calmly, your emotions will become the same, your actions will become the same, your thoughts will become the same. So one of the biggest things, and you know, as a kid, I got bullied a lot, but one of the things I learned was to stop straight away. How am I breathing? That was my first check. How am I breathing? Well, you know, am I holding my breath? That will cause a lot of tension, holding your breath. Breathing really shallow and fast, as you said, will cause a lot of problems. And in actual fact, within health side of Taoism, they say a baby breathes from the belly. So when we're born in the fetus and as a baby, our belly moves a lot. We breathe from the belly, and as we get older, that breath moves up and up and up, and the last place that it will be before we die is our throat. And you know, without going too much into it, but there's a thing called the death rattle, where when people are getting close to death, you can hear it in their throat. And within the Taoist medical side and Taoist philosophy, they say is that if you want to avoid death, breathe from the belly. You know, because the nearer it is to your throat, the nearer you are to death. So, you know, so always breathe from the belly. Always breathe as low as you can. And again, and then what's your breath? Yeah, where we do the full breath. You know, there were hundreds of different breath techniques out there. Find one you enjoy, do it, and then if it changes, then do the new one. And don't worry that, you know, because some people start with one technique and then eventually they move on to another one and think, oh, I'm not doing that one anymore. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. Breathe. As if you ever in one of my classes, you'll hear me often say, breathe. Breathing is good. Please breathe. I am a first aider, but I don't like using it, and I'm nowhere near you to help you. So please breathe. So breathing is good.
The thing that you and Dr. Joe were talking about a while ago was about having your head forward, and the more forward your head is, the more you're in your frontal lobe. And I've been thinking about that quite a bit as I've been walking, because I've noticed since I've come back from Australia that I'm a little bit forward when I'm walking. And I used to do this as a nurse before I moved to Australia, and I'd got myself really straight and used to walk a lot slower in Australia. And I hadn't realized that I'd picked that habit up again, that I was like leaning, the top half of my body was leaning forwards. And I'd videoed myself doing something, and I was like, oh, I'm doing that again. So I've been really, checking on that. And I can feel the difference when your head is kind of like more straight with your body and it's all in that alignment, that it just slows everything down. And that's why you do it as well, because you want to get somewhere quicker. So you kind of like, I don't think you get there any quicker, but you have this, this response in your body that you do that, and you feel that it will do. Yeah, so thank you for that. I enjoyed that little nugget. And something else I wanted to share, something that I've been doing a lot recently, is really shaking my body. And I can feel, since I've started doing it, and there's lots of other things that I've been doing as well, but some muscles I couldn't shake. They were so tense, I couldn't shake them. Whereas everything now feels much more relaxed in my body, and I'm able to shake everything. And I've got a trumpet because I've been working on my lymphatics as well. And jumping on a little trampoline is really good for your lymphatics. And it's so fun. But even just doing the shake on the trumpet, it's so much easier to do. So I just wanted to advocate shaking to people, shaking everything, but especially shaking your hands and just shaking everything. It's a really good way to release all that grr that gets stuck in your body.
Well, I mean, that goes into shaking is one of the versions of that I do is called Willow Tree Qigong. So you twist the waist, shaking the body as such, or twist the waist. But there's a whole Qigong set for shaking. But there's an interesting thing. It's like, and I'm not sure. I always thought about this sort of stuff. But why do we shake when we're cold? So the medical reason is, well, why the body, when we're cold and we shiver, we shake, is because it's your body starts the muscles in the body start basically reflecting or flexing or pulsing, because it's a way of generating heat in the body. It's a way of generating energy. So we shiver and we shake when we're cold, because it's the body's way of actually drawing energy into the muscles and the tendons, and actually heating up the blood and bringing the body back up to temperature. So the whole idea of, but it also, it's not just about the heat, but it's also about flowing the blood, because if we're still, we go stagnant. One of the biggest philosophies in the Chinese medicine is that the reason you get ill is because your energy's blocked, your blood is blocked, your chi is blocked, your oxygen is blocked, you're not moving. So you need to move. So within like the sacred child, the divine feminine, divine masculine, the sacred child is all about play, and kids twitch, and we tell them off, stop fidgeting, stop moving. That's them circulating energy. That's them, then kids will shake and play, or love shaking and love doing that sort of stuff. It really gets the body moving. It really activates the energy, the chi in your body. So allowing yourself to fidget is never a bad thing. Fidget is a lesser version, or is the beginning version of shaking. It's getting the body moving, is getting the body to circulate energy. So yeah, shaking is really good. And when you shake the hands, so in reflexology, which is often people think, reflexology is the points in the feet or massaging the feet. But reflexology is both hands and feet. Both hands and feet are connected. In essence, depending which way you want to go with it. But the feet are the souls. They're the yin. They're connected to the earth. They're the souls of the body, but the hands are the yang of the body. But both the hands and the feet, the part represents the whole. So the whole hand represents all different organs and different parts of your body. So when you're shaking the hands or doing something with the hands in an intentional way, so yi means intent or intention in Chinese. So when you're using yi, when you're using intent, and like you're shaking those hands, you're actually affecting the whole body. That's why you could shake just the hands. I've done this in residential homes where I've had people 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years old, and they're very, very stiff in their bodies. We can move your hands, we'll do something with your hands. And just getting them to move the hands, shake the hands, circulate the hands. When you work on the hands, you're actually working on the whole body. It affects the whole body. So just shaking the hands can actually also increase the circulation, the blood circulation, oxygen circulation, and chi circulation in the whole body. So there.
That takes me neatly on to the fascia, because when we were having, I think it's when we were on my show, and it might have been afterwards when we'd stopped the show and we were just chatting, but we touched on the fascia, because yeah, it's an area of my body that I've really been working on. I've been doing these fascia stretches, which have just been amazing. And the fascia medically isn't that known about. It was quite dismissed for a long time. In postmortems, they'd peel off the fascia and throw it away. Whereas it seems to me, because it's the connective tissue and it connects everything. And if there was no skin, no muscle, nothing else other than the fascia, you would have the perfect outline of the whole body and all the organs, because it surrounds everything. And obviously it's connective tissue. So if you stretch the fascia in your shoulders, it will actually stretch the fascia of your whole body, because it's connective tissue. So it's all connected. And it feels like it's a messenger as well. And it seems to me that the fascia, there's a link to me between the fascia and the beginnings of the crystalline networks in the body. So this theory of our body energy becoming more crystalline, and the fascia to me seems quite key in that. And it just feels like the mycelium network as well. It feels like it's got a link to that. And there's something to me in humans feeling separate from everybody, this illusion of separation that there is, that feels very real. The fascia seems linked to that as well.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, right. Yeah, you're right. The medical profession for a long time, the medical profession dismissed a lot of things. In actual fact, in the medical profession, you can go back to, in essence, I think it was the 1800s that basically they said, back in the 1800s, they basically said that the medical books were written, and they pretty much were saying that, oh, you know, not one man or woman could fully understand the body, so this is why we need specialists, and each part of the body works independently. So you know, and they said that all the way back in the 1800s, and even to this day, with that, you know, they're very reluctant to change anything, because it would mean totally changing all medical books and anatomy and physiology and everything. And a lot of things have happened since then. They know that there's a set of intercostal muscles at the back that actually almost like braces that actually affect the whole spine. So the whole spine is actually all interconnected. Yet they ignore that. In the, you know, you can actually have what people don't realize, that you can have a vertebrae out in your back that will simulate a knee problem or a hip problem. And there's actually been cases where people have gone and had a knee operation because they were told the issue was with their knee, and then 6 to 9 weeks later, after the knee operation, they still got the problem, because it wasn't the knee, it was the spine. There's actually a vertebrae out the spine, and your spine can affect your knees, it can affect your ankles, your legs, it can affect your hips, it can even affect your eyes and your heads. If you ever get a one-sided headache, that is not a true definition of a headache. It's not a migraine. Migraines are chemical. Migraines affect the whole brain. They can't affect half the brain. So a one-sided headache normally goes back to a vertebrae trapped in your neck or in your spine that's actually cutting off the circulation, and it's building up on one side. That's why it affects one side. If you ever get issues with your eyesight where in the morning your eyes were fine, but in the evening they're blurred, or the other way round, go and check your back, because and same with your hearing. If it's all right at part of the day but not in the others, that's not a normal issue. Oh, that's not deterioration of the ears or the eyes or whatever it is. That comes from somewhere else. Slightly boggy tangent, but that everything's interconnected. So the fascia, it wasn't until the last decade or so that when they started looking into the fascia, there's a couple of things with the fascia. The fascia, to work on the fascia, it's one of it is a very mental thing. On a lot of the bodies, you know, you can lift weights and you can build up muscles. To strengthen the fascia, it is very much how you're thinking, you actually thinking of it and thinking of your posture and affecting it in that way. It's very much a mental thing to affect the fascia, because it literally affects the whole body. It's all, as you said, it's covering the whole body. Now, one of the biggest things they found within the fascia is that actually the fascia was light is literally light is traveling through the fascia. It's actually like what's the stuff, the fiberglass, the fiber optics. that literally light information is passing through the fascia and transmitting through the whole body. So when we say, you know, oh, we're beings of light, we literally are. Our body already contains light. The fascia actually contains light particles. Light runs through the fascia and it's transmitting information and energy all the way through the body. And to the fact where the ancient Taoists knew about the fascia, and they called it the Wu Wei field, and they said that in between the organs and the skin is a field of light, a beam of light, and they talked about this light that was contained in between the skin and the organs, and it is actually the fascia. The fascia contains this light, and the whole idea is that when you're, and it goes a little bit back to, you know, the moving, when you're stretching your body, when you're in, so in Taoist yoga, so in yoga they tend to stretch in more, not always, but in more still postures, and they tend to lock joints. They tend to lock and go for full stretches in yoga. And certain, not all yogas, but certain yogas. In Taoist yoga or Neigong, we contract and we expand. So we when we and again, it can be breathing in and it can be breathing out. But if we're breathing out, we tend to stretch outwards and we expand fully, and then breathe in and we contract in. But we also we bend the joints. We never fully lock the joints, so the tendons can be stretched in between. So when we're stretching an arm out, our elbow is still ever so slightly bent, and that stretches the tendon, but it also stretches the fascia. The fascia is stretched through stretching out, but also slightly bending the joints. So in the hands, don't lock, rather than locking your hands and having your hand flat, if you allow all the joints in the fingers to be slightly bent, and then sort of just like feel yourself sort of stretching out, like you know, so almost like your stretch from the Fantastic Four. Try to keep all the joints slightly bent and stretching the fingers at the same time. And there's a whole different qigongs that we do this in Sham Zhong, which is standing straight, sound like a tree. But that you feel your whole body doing that. And if you had just bring your hands down by the side, and you're walking along, and you just let your hands be that ever so slightly stretched, and you put them down below, you start to feel tingles. You'll start to feel things moving. You know, it's like some sort of like in between you and in between the outside and your body. There's something, you know, it's very hard to just describe. But the fascia, sort of, when the energy's flowing, you feel it flowing in you, but it's not in you. It's sort of somewhere in between, and you can stretch the whole, you know, it's stretching the body in a certain way, but not stretching by locking joints. We stretch the body by keeping the joints open, which means, you know, that they're slightly bent. So all your joints are slightly open and relaxed, and you're stretching the tendons, but you're also stretching. You're not just stretching the tendons, you're stretching your skin, you're stretching your body, you know, you're stretching that outside as well. And when you do it, it feels like, you know, almost like somebody like pulling your cheeks, sort of, but you feel that stretch. You'll start to feel this stretch, and it's a stretch. It's sort of like a yawn. It's sort of like, you know, you feel that yawn build up, and you do that yawn, and you always feel better after that yawn. And it's that sort of stretch. It's a stretch that seems to release more char. It releases stuff. But yeah, so the fascia is the Wu Wei field. It is part of a technique called the Wu Wei. Is also means do little and everything is done. It doesn't mean do nothing. It means you do the minimum, and it's like the domino effect. It builds up. So activating the Wu Wei field is you're stretching the body in a very subtle, but through time, it builds up. It gets stronger and stronger. You know, if you only do it for 30 seconds, you'll feel 30 seconds, but if you do it for longer, do it as much as possible, and just every now and again, wiggle, move and twist and shake the body, and then just feel that stretch, feel yourself stretching, not just one bit of you, but everything all at once. And you'll feel it sort of everything connecting and everything stretching, and it will bring it's a bit of an undescribable feeling, but you'll get it when you do it.
Yeah, and it's like we were saying before, that if there's contraction, so when you release that contraction, then all the energy can go through and heal. If there's like fibrosis or there's scarring on the other side of the contraction, then the energy and the light can't really get through, and I guess the oxygen too, can't really get through and heal that area. But when you start to stretch the fascia, then all the energy can get in and do all the healing.
Yeah. The working on the fascia is again, it's always something that's done. It's something that takes a long time to get your head around or to like understand, because it's working. The whole point of Taoism is a balance, but balance is unity. And fascia is about working on the whole body all at once, and it's not stretching in a locked position. It's not all tight and dead. It's somewhere in between. You're both stretching and relaxing at the same time. And it's easier to sort of you start off with one, learning to do it in one part of the body, and then you do it with two, and then you do it with three, and then eventually you learn how to do it in the whole body, and it's just working it in a certain way, and it's very subtle and it builds up. It takes time, but it's so beneficial, because the fascia is actually when the fascia actually it doesn't just affect the skin. It's not just about circulating light for the body, or that light actually affects the blood circulation, everything else underneath, but it also affects the skin on top. So Bruce Lee was known, and a lot of immortal Taoists are known to have very silky skin. Their skin feels really silky, and that's the fascia in full production. The wrinkles seem to disappear, or you seem to have a little less wrinkles. You look more youthful. Your skin looks more slightly flushed, naturally blushed, and you look naturally healthier. There is a little bit of a thing of that sometimes, when people are, have fallen in love, and they say, "Oh, you just, you look a lot happier." They've sort of relaxed enough that their heart's been activated in a way. And there's a thing called the tora field that comes from the heart, the biomagnetic and bioelectric field that actually resonates in the heart. That can trigger a fascia response. They're actually interconnected. When the heart is in its harmonic phase, the fascia will start to work in its harmonic phase. If the fascia is fully active and is fully stretched, and that's the thing. It's everywhere. The fascia is the whole. It's the whole of your body. There is not one part. So you can, is when you work on everything, on relaxing but stretching everything, and you get it all working fully, it will affect the whole body. And then that affects the heart, which affects the pterygial field, which is this tora of energy, sort of like a donut. And this field, they know when that expands, and everything inside the expansion, all the cells start thriving. When that contracts, everything outside of that energy, the cells start breaking down. So, which is in essence what, when we live in fear and anxiety and stress, we're on a short leash, a clock. We'll only live a certain period of time. It's medically shown that within our DNA, we're supposed to be living at least we're supposed to be not getting old until we're 150 at least, according to the DNA. They're actually talking about, well, we're supposed to have a lifespan of 250 to 500 years, which would then make sense why in Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, Christianity, you hear about stories of people who were 500 to 1,000 years old. Is that if our body, because we're in this flight or fight mode constantly, our bodies actually aren't repairing as much as they are meant to. We talk about so many cells, they renew every so many years, but we're meant to be thriving so much more than we are, and it's because we're living in a state of fight or flight constantly. And that's what affects. And one of the things that will help reverse that, and reverse is a big thing. It doesn't matter how much damage, if you can reverse it all. But it's the time you've got to do that, and or commitment to that. But yeah, you working on the fascia, you can start reversing stuff. Working on your breath, you can start reversing stuff. Working on the heart, you can start reversing stuff. So there is never is too late. There's no such thing as too late. It's just about, you can reverse it. It's just about doing it.
The lymphatics, I would add to that list as well.
Indeed.
Yeah, the lymphatics have been so I've been doing lymphatic massage on my face, and like armpits down here, and on the belly, and doing dry brushing as well. And I've also been doing a little bit of acupuncture on my face. And it's funny you say about the silky skin, because one of the things that I notice afterwards is how silky my skin feels. And the same when I did quite a bit of lymphatic massage. And when I touched my face, I was like, oh my goodness, I can really feel the difference. And presumably the lymphatics is taking away some of the, it's clearing away the toxins more. So your skin feels smoother and silkier without the toxins.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's funny how, like, as a society, we're very concerned about our outward looks. We get dressed, which may be a good thing. Don't want naked people walking around, but we get dressed and we trim our hair and we do certain things, but we don't work on the internals. Like I say, doing lymphatic massage, doing any sort of massage. You massage yourself, or if you could get in the barefoot doctor works in a way that they would have doctors that would give you a 15-minute massage every single day. But that 15-minute massage every single day would almost double your lifespan, at least, or at least in that lifespan you would be healthy most of the time, because that massage means circulation. You're circulating energy, you're making things flow. So the whole the lymphatic massage, it's literally clearing out the system. If you don't clean a sink, it will start to smell. Or you don't clean a cupboard, it will start to smell. And it's the same thing. When you work on the tissues and the lymphs, and when you're doing the lymphatic massage, you're doing a fascia massage as well, because they're both interconnected. You can't do one because to get to the lymphs, you have to work on the fascia. So like, and in essence, if you know what you're doing, or how I was taught, when you massage somebody, you're not just massaging the muscles, you're massaging everything above and everything below that. So in between the muscles and the skin is the fascia. So working on that fascia, that's part of the reason why people feel better when they get a massage, but feel better when they move, because you're affecting the fascia that's increasing the flow. Now, if you do anything around the face, well, I say the arms, the face, the belly, that works on the lymphs as well, and clearing out the lymphs. Mean releasing those toxins from the body. But basically, so if you release toxins or you release tension in the body, what that means or what that equals is more energy, more chi. Because if your lymphs are blocked, that means the lymph system has to work harder to put everything else through, and or it takes up more energy because the lymphs are blocked. That means the body works harder. That means it ends up being less and less. It's a little bit like, like you take a tablet and then eventually you need 2 tablets because one tablet you've got used to, and so on and so forth. And it's the same with tension in the body, all over the body. Is the more tense your body is, the more energy you're using, and the more tired you'll get, because those muscles to be tense means that they're using energy. So because they're using to be tense, to be locked, to if you hold your fist and I tell you to do this for an hour, you're going to feel knackered in an hour's time, because all this whole area, and probably with most people, all the way up to their shoulder, because they're making their shoulder tense as well, is all locked up, and that tension is using energy, it's using fuel in your body, and so when you release that tension, you actually gain lots of energy, because the energy that was being used to keep those muscles in spasm is now free for other things. So the whole idea of moving and massaging, the lymphs, massaging the body in general, is that it releases so in the lymph nodes, they get blocked up. The body has to work harder and harder and harder, and because they're blocked up, it affects the skin, affects the how you look, affects how you feel. So when you release the toxins in those lymph nodes, when you release the tension in the muscles, it's releasing toxins will make you feel better, but also then therefore you also have more energy because they're no longer blocked. But hey, what do I know?
Changing the subject. So I've been doing a lot of gardening. And I've been here for a year. And, with all the stuff that's been happening in the last year, it's taken a while for the garden to get finished, but it's pretty much just about finished. And I was, so before I mow the lawn, I set an intention. I let the grass know that it's going to be mowed to start with, because it's conscious and it's just a consideration. But there's a little pond on my neighbour's side of the garden, and earlier in the year I think there were toads actually rather than frogs, but it was full of mating frogs, toads. So now there's some teeny weeny little toads scattered about the garden. And I also want to warn them that I'm about to cut the grass, because I don't want them to get injured. So I was at the bottom of the garden and I sent a telepathic message out to all the little froggies and the toads. And instantly, as soon as I told them where to go, instantly I saw this movement in the grass and I was like, oh, no way, really? And then this toad started jumping away from the grass that I was about to cut and into a safe place. And I just thought that was amazing. I know we're connecting with creatures telepathically, but that really just seemed too coincidental to be a coincidence.
Again, it's, I mean, I'm not a great Western style person, but the the Piscean energy was opposing. It's in Chinese as a symbol which is half black and half white circle, and that is actually called yin yang. And people think, oh, but the one, you know, the one that looks like two little fish, oh, that's yin yang. No, that's actually called Tai Chi, because that's harmony. Yin yang is opposing opposites, but it's also separation. It's been disconnected, and especially the last 200 years, we were told, you know, disconnected, we're separate to everything, we're not connected to everything. But quantum physics, which is 1910, the split experiment, I think about 1910 to 1920, the particle experiment. From there, they realized that the observer affects the experiment, which is why we have blind, double blind and treble blind case studies, or in science or medical, is that, you know, the observer, the guinea pig doesn't know what's going on, and sometimes even the person conducting the experiment doesn't know what's going on, because them knowing affects the experiment. And in the 70s, they found what's called the field, which is this fluid interconnected energy that connects every single atom to every other atom. And, you know, it is, they realize that everything's connected to everything else, and literally our thoughts are radiating out into the ether, into the universe, affecting everything. They also found around about that time that when they were doing this, trying to split the atom, they freakishly found out that every atom is conscious, that it seems to be consciously aware. And if atoms are consciously aware, that means everything inside you is consciously aware, and everything is, even the walls, that, you know, you know, everything that we think is not alive is also consciously aware, at least in an atomic way, and you know, in the atoms, and everything's interconnected. And, you know, there's certain things like, so you go to a sort of house, you go, oh, there's a bad energy in this house, oh, there's a bad, or oh, there's a good energy in this house. And then you find out something happened in that house. And you know, because what happened, energy leaks out, or our feelings, our thoughts, they're like radiation, they're like radio waves, they leak out, and it affects the place around us. So we can communicate with everything. It's been known since the dawn of time. Science has tried to dismiss it, but even science knows it. You know, mainstream science doesn't want to tell you a lot of stuff, but quantum physics, and there's a lot of science out there, a lot of evidence out there that shows that everything's interconnected to everything else, and you can communicate with everything is connected with you, and everything can communicate with you, and all is one. You know, some people say, oh yeah, all is one, but do you really get what that means? You know, that we are all interconnected, that we're all you know, everything's connected to everything else. Everything is conscious. Everything, it's also immortal consciousness, because if you go by Einstein's theory of energy, is that energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be transformed or transferred. Your consciousness, the thing that makes you think and feel, the thing, your awareness, that is also energy, so that can't be destroyed, it can only be transformed or transferred. And also there are over 15,000 case studies in China, Africa, and India, of children who got to 4 or 5 and saying, "Oh, I used to be this person, I used to be that person," and they've gone off to different villages and they've said, "Did this person exist?" Da, 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 and they've actually got documented cases of reincarnation. And there's over there is over 15, I think it's 15,000. There's over 50. You only need to for the medical profession to say something is legit. I think it's only 500, and there's over 15,000. But we but we're still not told about it because it changes everything. There are certain things. There's a thing called the Brookings Report, which was about UFOs and aliens, but there are different versions of it all within history. And basically, they said if certain information was to radically change the way we perceive life, what effect would it have on society? And with extraterrestrials, with information like this, with even within the historians, with the true what they found about how old we really are and how back things really go, the information is still the same. If it could radically change our society right now, it would be too much a shock for us. It would rock the world too much, so they bury it. So there might be 15,000 case studies of reincarnation, but you won't get to know that it's been proven because it changes too much. Because that means that why are we worried about death? Why are we, that we'll live again? Why aren't you living the life that you're meant to? Why are you so afraid of stuff if that actually you can live again? You should be, this life will be over, but there'll be another one. And but that means that should mean that you'll make the most of this one. And why are we living in fear? Why are we this and why are we that? And if everything is actually interconnected and we can actually communicate, why are we so restricted? Why are we still thinking that, oh, we're just alone? We're alone in the universe and we're alone in our own thoughts and this is just a flesh. Even when we say, oh, we're beings of light, but this is just a flesh suit. We're just in this flesh suit. Yes, but also this flesh suit is conscious. Every cell in your body is consciousness, and you could be communicating with that, and you could be using that to, your body can do so many things, but because you think it's just you're the thing inside your head or wherever, and then this is just a shell, that's you keeping yourself separate. That's you disconnecting from the universe, from reality. And we've got to realize that we can communicate with everything. And I've seen that before. I've seen monks do that where they're going to build a new part, and they, for like half a day, they're just sort of meditating, and you suddenly see everything moving out of the way, all the insects and all the things, because they've asked them to move. We're going to build here. Can you move, please? This reality is far more magical than we've been led to believe.
Absolutely. And our bodies really appreciate being spoken to. When we have pain in our body, the first thing we should do is ask our body, why are you hurting? What's going on? What's the message for me? And I wanted to, when you said the word atom before, I wanted to honour a friend of mine, Darren Green, who, a lot of people play with words. And we know that the word Om is about peace. It's the sound of the universe. It's the sound of creation. At-om. Atom. At-om.
Yeah.
At peace.
Yeah. Yeah. It is the Om is the sound of the universe. It is the universe. Every atom is a universe. You're at the universe. You're at the Om. Indeed.
Should we share some light language?
Let's go for it. Let's do some.
Shall I go first?
Say again?
Shall I go first?
Go for it.
So I just invite us all to bring our awareness to our heart. Hiat oren de gorille beret kia at onna al. Koliki karent era de golle ole kiara de gonuma kede de era de godike a. Kikele kiara de godike la pakete titi dush tata la pakana a. Feels like this one is working on the throat. Hol arade hier, ho orat an arade ke at uist arade de ara, kulle ke arade amarade un, kulle eran na ke un, urra da nika at uist, hale ke arade un orat akda mekele e arade he art uko, ul arade art kuist.
Wu qi za wu shen. Wu qi za wu shen. Wu qi longa wu jian. Wu qi longa wu jian. Wu yi wu za wu sha nu si. Wa zi yi wu yi wa zi ya. And you zi ya shu sa wu. Ja wu yi wu zi a wu yi wa zi. Wu ji wu ji wu zi. Wu yi wu zi. Wu zi wu yi wu zi. Wu yi wu zi wu yi. Wu zi wu yi wu za wu shu. Wu zi wu yi wu ya wu zi. Ya wu zin ya lu za wu jian da gu zi ya wu zin ya wa du wa. Da wu zi wu yi wu zi wu yi wu zi wu. Wu ya wu zi wu zi wu yi wu yi wu za. Da wu yi wu zi a wu yi wu zi. Wa wu yi wu za wu. Da wu yi wu ya wu zi da. Da wu zi ya wu za. Wu yi wu zi yu wu yu wu zi wu yu. Wu zi wu yi wu zi wu yi wu yu zi wu. Wu yi wu yi wu zi. Wu sha wu long sha. Wu shi ya wu zi ya wu.
Yalla no kollekia. Na kerto unnekili ira. Mo kollekia natat a hol art it art kutukta para. Ikitla pakadaleke art kutorikte amar tukutike a. Kokleke art klipike art kutukutuk. Kokleke art tiktiktiktiktik. Tiktikut. Well, that was fun, wasn't it? There was a lot going on there.
Definitely. Actually, that's activating my fascia. But yeah, so that is the thing with Dragdog light language. Yeah, you're stretching, so it's coming from the diaphragm, and I'm pulling and stretching the diaphragm, and that's where the noises are coming from. So it doesn't. I'm not getting it here. I'm getting it from here. I'm feeling the noises more internally. So, or when I listen back, it's like, that's not how it sounds to me. When it sounds to me, like a lot different. I know our voices sound different in our heads anyway, but yeah, the vibrating in here. It's all, I'd love to find a way of doing a mic where you could actually hear what you're saying on the inside, because it sounds different when I've listened back to it. It definitely sounds different, but indeed.
Yeah, that was different from all the others that I've heard you do, I think.
Yeah. It's, for me, the light language, light code's changing. It's definitely changing how it used to be to how it is now.
Yeah, I've been finding not so much on that one, I think, but I can't always remember what's just come out afterwards. But a lot of the time with me now, it's a lot of sounds, not even like words. It's like it's it's a lot of kind of just sounds, and as you say, sometimes they're really coming from your diaphragm, or kind of from different parts of the body. And it almost feels like, because I used to say there's many streams coming through at once, but one might be more at the forefront. But it feels like there's more than one at the forefront now. It kind of feels like there's maybe three at the forefront as I've, expanded and can let more light through. It just feels like there's even more frequencies coming through at the same time.
Indeed. Okay, shall we wrap up?
I think so. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone that's been with us as well.
Yep, and if you stay to the end, you've got the light language as well. So awesome, well done, and thank you. And until we'll do another one of these next month. We'll do one a month, and we'll go from there. So until next time, obviously, Denise, you stay there, but everybody else, I hope you've enjoyed this. Until next time, love, Chi, and Shen.